All right, welcome to another episode of Middle Minded. My name's Pete Bogdanov. I'm here with my good friend Dave.
Gabine.
Together we are Middle Minded. All right, today's episode we're going to jump in honor in capitalism, and is this something that can even happen? I start this with. This is one of my pet peeves with the world, is because everybody acts like capitalism can't be governed or shouldn't be parented, and that you should just have open capitalism and open competition without any regard to honor. And I don't really know anybody who can't point out a lack of honor in capitalism. If it's, oil companies, if it's pharmaceutical companies, let's go do the Oxycontin thing where we have this this is the largest lawsuit in U.S. history, the largest financial punishment, yet this company is still in business. And the financial punishment was a slap on the wrist for the amount of money they made by doing dishonorable capitalism. Another way we can talk about dishonorable capitalism is the tobacco industry. They knew they had a product that caused cancer in its natural form, and just making cigarettes with tobacco with no additives or whatever, they knew it was cancer causing. And then doubled down, and then they made it more addictive, and then they tripled down and they put preservatives in it for different things like shelf life, and I would say they tripled and quadrupled down, and they knowingly made a poisonous product that would go on to kill hundreds upon millions of people, and they did it for profit. And I guess my questions.
Then they just made it's vaping.
Yeah.
Same.
It's the same thing. And it's not to say, some people will take a liberal mindset, and this is my mindset, that, if you want to do drugs, you should be allowed to do drugs. But I think the supply chain of where those drugs come from should be regulated, where here in San Francisco, they decided to decriminalize drugs, so heroin, fentanyl, and then we ended up with San Francisco's under a massive fentanyl overdose. I don't even know, epidemic. I don't know what you would call it, but there's a reason why all of this degradation of San Francisco's civilization, our society is going so far down, is because we're not going to arrest people for the distribution of drugs, even though that means that you have meth heads or heroin addicts making these drugs, lacing them with fentanyl, and then you end up with dead people. And am I saying that I think heroin should be sold like cigarettes? No, because I think the capitalistic lack of honor happened in the tobacco industry, happened in the pharmaceutical industry, happens in the medical industry.
I was going to say, because that did, it did. It just wasn't called heroin. It's called oxy or whatever.
Yeah.
It's still an opioid. It's made readily available.
Yeah.
Prescribed by your doctor. My back hurts. Hey, let me just give you this. Let me just give you a heroin in a pill. Hey, Pete, I'm glad you mentioned that about the drugs, because it's funny, because everyone said, they're going to legalize marijuana or whatever, way back when it became legal. And one of the arguments was more people are going to do it. You're going to do it. Pete, if you legalized heroin today, I would not do heroin. And I've done my fair share of of drugs. I'm not going to lie. Okay, it's out there for the world now. But I've never done heroin, and one of the reasons I have not, one, I guess I hate needles, but the other one is I'm scared I'd like it too much, and I'm scared that it would be addictive, and I wouldn't try it just because now it's legal.
I think it's easy on subjects like heroin, because most of us, like let's say crystal meth, heroin, most of us are not going to partake in these substances because we know how to read a warning label. And that doesn't need to be a Surgeon General's warning label, meaning we know that all these people turn into scum of the earth. They become heroin addicts and meth heads, and next thing you know, they're in their grandmother's jewelry box stealing jewelry that goes back 5 generations, and they have no care care. They just want their next fix. So most of us are like, I ain't touching that stuff.
Yeah.
I might do cocaine, but I'm not doing meth.
Unless you snort some crystal by accident thinking it's coke, that's...
And I guess
not that's ever happened to me. But
it's happened. Especially nowadays, because let's go back to honor and capitalism, is now they're lacing all the drugs. When you and me were in the nightclub zone, and we didn't know each other in my mid-20s, early 20s, but, we could take ecstasy, we could take cocaine, and it was cocaine. Yeah. And if it was laced with something that was harmless.
If it I don't know about harmless, but if it was, the most common thing with ecstasy back then was it being cut with speed, and you don't get that MDMA effect, and you get that just sitting there grinding your jaw. And
we were worried about being disappointed in a high, not dying.
Not getting the
overdose on fentanyl.
No, I wouldn't. It's. I mean,
I don't think drugs are the only place it shows up. Something that upset me was the Lizzo Amazon commercial. So you have this lady sitting in a bathtub eating wedding cake or whatever the heck she was eating, and it's promoting massive obesity, because she's not just a little obese, she's massively obese. And companies like McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Twinkies, whatever, are out there not only selling these substances that are highly addictive, sugar is highly addictive, but they're allowed to run free. So where is their honor in their capitalism? I hear the Coca-Cola family doesn't even drink their own products because they know how fucking poisonous it is.
I wouldn't. McDonald's, man. I mean, that's the one thing I'll say. Most people on the left won't. They can't say anything decent about somebody that they don't like. But I'll straight up say, RFK. I like the fact that he's for promoting health, especially in children, and nipping it at the bud in the beginning, and trying to stop childhood obesity and all of that.
I know. I mean, the thing with the dyes, they've been proven to be extremely unhealthy, and other countries, Europe, for example, who I don't necessarily like to use the UK as an example, but Europe in general, they don't allow Kellogg's to sell Fruit Loops with all these fruit dyes in them because it's poisonous. So their version of the FDA stopped this crap and stopped allowing people to sell poison, yet our version of the FDA gets with these companies, and I don't know how the money goes down, but I know so that they can make more money, these cereal brands are putting all of these dyes into your kids' candy and into their cereal and into their fruit snacks and into everything else. It's in our beverages, and it's only to make more. They're already making good money. Yeah. It's to make even more money, and it's at the point where they're putting it in knowingly poisoning people. It's easy to pick on tobacco. Yep. It's easy to pick on the pharmaceutical with oxycodone or whatever, but this is happening in our food supply.
Oh, absolutely.
I think one of the things is, Gavin Newsom and the e-bikes. Now let's go into a totally different thing. This isn't even a poisonous subject. He wants to throttle restrict the e-bikes, but in many ways, I think we should. These bikes are capable of going 90 miles per hour if you jailbreak them. I'm on a scooter and I'm going 55 miles per hour. I'm an adrenaline junkie and I'm loving it. But now I just saw a scooter that does 90 miles per hour. You know how unsafe these things are?
Oh, especially when when most of the time they're ridden on the sidewalk.
This is not a racetrack. Yeah. This is downtown San Francisco or St. Pete or wherever you live. And I'm not saying this is very anti-liberal, and I am more liberal than people think, because I think people should have the freedom to do whatever the F they want, wherever they want. I don't want people governing me and telling me that I can't be an adrenaline junkie. If I want to jump off a building with a parachute on my back, that's my prerogative. There's consequences for it, so we do have laws. It doesn't stop it. Kind of like gun rights or whatever, having gun laws doesn't stop criminals from killing each other, or you or me. So I think it's a difficult subject, the idea of having honor in capitalism. But I believe if the world doesn't learn how to parent capitalism We're going to keep just regurgitating. We're not learning from the past. If we let tobacco do it, then we let the pharmaceutical companies do it, then we let the food companies do it, and they do it on grand scales. I mean, everybody knows about the food pyramid triangle being debunked, and that was just a giant marketing campaign for capitalism, because they came up with a marketing campaign that would feed these industries and they'd make a lot more money. So they sold us a lie.
Mortgages 2008. I worked for AmeriQuest, which was probably, I'd say, after Countrywide, probably the real reason that the whole mortgage crisis happened. It's all about money. They were lending to people who shouldn't have been lended to. I mean, I remember people falsifying bank statements, people who had $10,000 in their checking account, add a couple zeros, cut and paste, send it through the fax. Now they got $1 million and they're getting a loan. And this happened all the time, and people got loans they shouldn't have got, and they all got foreclosed on because they couldn't pay. So that's capitalism of taking, all these, the managers, my branch manager bought a brand new house, drove nice Cadillac, one of those Escalades. They just rolling in the dough. And then the regional managers all the way up, and the people at the top were making millions and millions of dollars.
I think that's why
same thing.
I almost view this as an impossible goal. But it irritates me when we just stop and say this is impossible to govern or to police capitalism. It is a daunting task, because how do you police something where the people who are involved in it are getting paid? Like, you're talking about these mortgage brokers, and they're buying Escalades. It's a $100,000 truck now, and buying these $1.8 million houses when they don't make the kind of money to afford it, but they're wrapped up. They're getting the toys, they're getting the candy, they're getting the. So nobody wants to tell on the system, especially when they're getting fed by it. So you might be broke for a little while, and all of a sudden you get in on your little scam in capitalism, or your little side hustle, and you're making money, and then you don't want to tell on the pharmaceutical, you don't want to tell on the tobacco, you don't want to tell on somebody, because capitalism feeds itself. Like, it basically is a built-in bribing machine. That just shut up, I'm going to give you a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. I could take it to this current administration also and say, why are we paying taxpayer money for the president to golf at his own golf resorts, golf clubs, whatever? Why are we putting up foreign dignitaries in his hotels? And I think we were talking before about, where capitalism gets into politics, and that's just another example of that, where you're using your power to gain financial gains. You're using your power of a position for financial gains. Same thing with lobbying. Lobbying
it's
is
completely
lobbying should not be
government. I would argue that government's always been distorted, because when you're a ruler or a ruling class, so president, king, whatever, parliament, and you're involved in that ruling class, you're already dealing with natural resources, rare earth minerals, mining of steel and copper, silver, platinum. You're already dealing with coal mines. You're already dealing with water energy, wind and solar energy, fuel energy. So you're dealing with these massive components, and when you are the government, you ultimately own that. Like the United States owns the land in the United States. All we do is lease it from the bank. It's called a mortgage, but we don't really own the house. As soon as they want to say eminent domain, they take your freaking house. Yeah. So when you have capitalism so entwined in government, this is where I get where it almost feels impossible to bring in honor to capitalism, because the people with the billions of dollars have the money and the specialists, the psychological warfare. They know everything to do to not get caught and to keep doing what they're doing, and the right people to pay off. I don't know that it can be solved. It's a dream of mine that if I talk about the subject of honor and capitalism, that somehow humanity will learn from its mistakes and to start to apply some common sense to just not allowing an abuse of capitalism. Is that a pipe dream?
It's an honorable position to have. I don't know if it's going to ever work. I think the thing is, it's not. I mean, it's greed. Everything is greed. I mean, a lot of these people have billions of dollars, right? You could stop now and you don't have anything to worry about. You're set for the rest of your life. You got to have more and more and more, and that's the problem with capitalism. That's the big problem, I think, with capitalism. Enough is never enough.
When you and I are arguing about billionaires, they're on a race to be trillionaires.
Exactly.
And we've already had our first couple of people break into the trillionaire range. So, they're not even worried about you policing billionaires, because they're trying to be trillionaires. And I think that's always going to be the case is you and I are wanting honor amongst the millionaires, the billionaires, but the reality is they're so busy trying to be trillionaires that the greed it's a monster.
And the focus in our society is on how much you have, what you have. So it's not. I mean, when your whole society is geared to that, it's hard to turn it off. It's hard to. I mean, look at I think we touched on this in the last episode, where people in Congress were trading stocks and stuff. It's like, using your position of power for your advantage to gain financial, I don't know. I think it goes just to our society of what we value and what, money is money the most important thing? Is being a millionaire the most important thing?
Maybe this generation, and maybe this is a positive thought, because I'm terrified of this lazy video game. You got full-grown adults playing toy games, but on the other side of this failure to launch generation, whose head is so up a video game's ass that they literally don't have the ambition of their previous, thousands of years of generations. Now all of a sudden you have this lazy, entitled, and you hear these comments like, I deserve medical, I deserve shelter, I deserve food, and I'm like, you're born, you're not guaranteed anything. I disagree with that. But on a positive side,